I'm happy to be here in front of you. Yes, so the invitation also came in a very joyful way to me when Sandra told me about, and Janis about the idea of shielding, which is a word in itself that I was not using so far, but my practice and my research somehow deal with the notion of shielding in many different ways. So what I will do today is to tell you how it happens. And I will also do a practice that you can also see a little bit the embodiment of the research. I will also play some videos that you can see also when the practice becomes more like a public event. And please interrupt me anytime if what I say you will be curious to know more about it or it was not clear. And yeah, I will keep it short, also to leave space at the end for you. And also to mention that the workshop that we are doing these days is also about the same topic. So on Thursday, during the exchange day, eventually we will have chance to test each other's exercises, so you will also have the chance to go through the embodiment of what I will speak about today. Well, I want to start with presenting to you what do I understand by research. It's a word that we like to use, and especially in the context of university and education. And also, when we speak about research, what is the difference between artistic, scientific, academic, or any other form of research? And my background is philosophy, so I don't come from art in the sense of having an education. So I will also tell you a little bit what was my first understanding of research and how throughout the time I started to combine it, since I find myself in this intersection between philosophy and art. It's always for me playful, ambiguous, and sometimes a big struggle not to be able to define myself, since at the same time I try, apparently sometimes I either because I sabotage myself or I lose traces of my own body. I keep always myself ambiguous to what I do. So I like to put myself also in this situation of not being able to say what do I do. So today I will also make an effort in that sense. Hopefully it will not be clear. And yeah, so what is research and what is what I do? In my case, I never introduced myself as an artist, or I never introduced myself as a philosopher, of course not. But if I may send a biography, I don't mind to write down I'm an independent researcher. The word independent means that I'm not affiliated to, I don't hold any position in any institution that they pay me to research. It's something that I do because I want, because I like, and because I luckily have time to do. And I also like to say that I'm a dilettante, which means that not really understanding myself through the specialization or being an expert on anything, but more following the principle of pleasure. And wherever I find pleasure, I put myself in. So this also applies to my research. This doesn't mean that I'm an hedonist, not at all. And I'm sure that you will see that this is not the case. So what is research? As you can see, I brought here some graphics. First of all, it's like what is the relation between the practice and the research? Sometimes you will hear saying practice-based research or practice-oriented research or research-oriented practice, and you can bring it to the extreme. I think that is a little bit like the chicken and the egg. What is first, the research or the practice? In my case, is the chicken and the egg. And I like to keep it in this way, like a continuous oscillation that I never know what is first or what is last, but at least they keep me moving from one place to another one. And so this is why you see a little bit this big mess of going here and coming back and returning and continuing. Good. So shielding is a notion that is inherent to my understanding of research, and this is the first part of my presentation. I will introduce the notion of shield related to limit, boundary, border. This first part, I will also articulate the concept of experience, which is a key term for me. What does it mean to do an experiment or to go through an experience? This is, I learned this model during my times studying philosophy. You dedicate a lot of time in studying the ancient Greek culture. And one understanding of what was a researcher in that time, we need to, I will tell the story, I will simplify the story. Basically, the ancient Greece was articulated in different polis or cities. So there were many cities, and each city will have this wall or a limit or a boundary that will define the inside and the outside. And there will be some people in charge of traveling outside or outwards in order to play different functions. I will mention 2 or 3 of them. And so these people had the mission, had the responsibility of bringing new knowledge to the city. The city has already its own conventions, its own understanding of how to articulate religion through rituals, etc. Let's not forget that in that time also Greece was a polytheist society, that religion will still articulate the worldview. So it was a very important mission to send somebody abroad in order, not simply because some of them, they will map the Mediterranean Sea and bring back a map, a cartography. These other people will bring a cartography, but something different than geographic boundaries. They will bring actually new techniques, new skills, new practices of how to articulate the religious activities such as rituals or festivities. So this person will travel, sometimes as an ambassador, sometimes as a spy, and will participate in these rites and these festivals, in these rituals. This like some of them will last for 1 week. And by participating, not simply being a spectator, but by participating, they will embody the knowledge. Eventually, they will spend even a year learning something, and then they will come back to the city and presenting what they have learned. No, so I always thought what a great job, but with the risk that there will be somebody waiting for them at the door at the gate of the city, and actually asking them, okay, let's wait because maybe what you have learned is corruption, or might corrupt our system. Maybe it's too dangerous or too alien or too different. So we need to also measure what is actually the possibilities to assimilate the new knowledge. So there will be this kind of membrane, if we want to think of the shield as a membrane and not something as something physical. This membrane-like shield will have these people waiting at the door and saying, okay, show me what you have learned. And if it's not too dangerous, we include it. We include it in the education, we include it in the schools, we include it also in the way that we actually organize our festivals. Exactly. Also, this was based on oral tradition. The writing was not yet such a common practice. So also this person, not to forget everything that it learned, it will memorize through poetry. So also the poetry was the symbolic language that will fit into this task. So what do we see here is that what I find beautiful is that actually this person was called the theoros. The word theoros probably already rings the bell because it's almost the same as theory. So theory, it wasn't what we understand today as something sometimes in opposition to practice. The theoros was the person that should actually see, because the word theory actually means to see, to have a vision. So you need to translate what you have seen and to make sense out of it. How is it called, the place where you go and see something? It's called theater. It's the same root as theory. So basically, theory and theater, they are intimately connected. They have this intimate affinity. You actually do theory going to the theater. And theory was also something related to embodiment. It was a practice-based job that sometimes what you have seen is not simply what your eyes see physically, because also during these festivities, what you see maybe is a holy vision, right? So it's not only the physical and material phenomenological world, but you also need to have the eyes that see the invisible. So it was with all this complexity. So the notion of shield, in this case, I associated with the idea of boundary and limit, and how this boundary works like a membrane, and who is in charge of going in and out. How do you maintain an exchange with otherness, with difference, with alterity? How do you think that you can include new things in the city, new ideas, when these ideas are dangerous, when they are too new? And also, we see that it's a double process, because it's not only sending somebody outwards or outside, abroad, it's also leaving the gate open for whatever might enter. So we have already these two different directions. So the word limit in Greek is peiros, it has this root, which also the term experience comes from. And experience literally means to go outside the limits, outside the boundaries. The prefix ex, as you can see, literally implies this notion. So we have peiros, or is the notion of limit. Who are the ones who are at the boundaries? The pirates. The pirates will be the ones who are not belonging to any city, and you might encounter them while you travel. And why are they dodgy? Is because exactly they are born out of the understanding of boundary. So maybe they are boundaryless. They don't have morals, maybe they don't have ethics, or they don't have the same morals or the same ethics as the ones coming from the city. An experiment literally means to make an attempt outside what you already know, or what you keep within your shield, or within your safe space. So periculum means danger, literally. And also there is this beautiful understanding of what is risk. The risk was nothing else than when you sail towards another country or another territory, the risk was this underwater mountain that your boat might bump against and break. So literally the risk is this mountain that you don't see. Risks are invisible, and you might crack your boat against, because you don't see it. So that was the notion of risk. The perimeter is actually what corresponds to the circle that you trace around the center. Usually the center was the temple, where you have also the fire symbolizing the specific divinity or god of that city. And we already see how, through such a simple thing as a root of a word, we can articulate the whole understanding of what is experience, how can we understand research based on the idea of boundaries, based on the idea of limits. Good. So that will be already like another way of simplifying or making a synthesis of this. If we understand the first circle, the one that I broke, as the one first attempt of where do we establish a shield or a boundary, In the center, we have something that we can call the law, the order, the constitution, the rules. And then the more we approach the boundaries, where the pirates are, is where actually we find art. We might find also any other form of research, such as science or philosophy, theory as well. And well, I also wrote down here madness as one of the possible dangers if we apply this graphic to the self as well. And what is outside is chaos, is the excess of possibilities. When something is too much or too, we don't have narratives, we don't have concepts, we don't have ideas, we don't have techniques to comprehend, to embrace this otherness, this alterity, this difference. It's too different to understand it. So the opposite of order is chaos, and in this sense, theory will have the responsibility, the same as art, of venturing oneself into the encounter with a chaos, with this difference, and making sense out of it. And not only that, but actually returning and sharing this with others. How do you actually translate this encounter with chaos into something that can be assimilated in your culture, in your city, in your collective, in your community? Good, so first statement I would like to throw here, there is no research without danger and risk. Research also implies to define what are the boundaries that you are dealing with, which boundaries are you making blurry, through which boundaries are you going, how far are you moving from your comfort zone or from your safe space, and to which extent are you encountering alterity or difference. This type of research, I like to make a difference between this one and the next one that I will introduce. This one is based on the goodwill. Let's say that we are all aware that we need new knowledge, for example, so we choose one person to be responsible of doing this. Or if we are not a society, that you are just yourself, as an artist, let's say that now you are going to conduct a research. You are going to spend the next months researching on something. You even already chose the topic, chose your collaborators, everything is based on your decisions. This type of research is something that is based, what I call, in the goodwill, because it's your intention to do it. It's your intention to approach difference, it's your intention to approach otherness, chaos. It's very different from this one. The next approach of research that I will bring is when actually the difference visits you. So it's not you that approaches it, but you receive an invitation from the devil. And I will explain what does it mean. Yeah. Good, so here is when something is not based on the goodwill or on your own decision. Sometimes it's contingency what decides. You resign from the agency of being the one who is researching, and you are being surprised by the event. Something is going to knock at your door and demand from you a response. This is a different type of research. It's when you have no other choice but to make a research. Something happened and you need to make an investigation. You need to conduct a process of trying to make sense, for example, because things are too complex, or maybe something got paralyzed in you and now you need to try to do something, come up with some strategies, tactics of moving what got stuck on you. So this type of research is what I was working on, this book of Dangerous Dances. And the beginning of this research is also connected to etymology. As you can see, I really like to play with words because, yeah, it's something that opens up for me an horizon of new meanings, and it's very playful as well. So in this case, I was researching on what is the intimate affinity between dance and danger. So we have seen before that danger was periculum, connected to the idea of the boundary. Danger is what is close to the boundaries. In this case, danger is something very different. It's not something that you approach, it's actually something that approaches you. I abandoned the Greek language, and in this case, I moved towards French, and it's very interesting what happens when you start to research on how this word danger, I mean, speaking English now, but the word comes from French, appear first in this language. It was on the 12th century. And actually, this word literally means the power of a lord or a strange master. Danger means a power of a lord or a strange master. The root of danger, D-A-N, is the same root as domain or domination, which, as you can imagine, implies an influence of something or somebody towards a space. So there is a powerful or dangerous influence being exercised or executed by a presence that is too powerful and exercises a domain or a domination. We see very clear here the understanding of danger. Before, when danger was a limit, we didn't need to think immediately about power relations. In this case, the first thing comes to our mind when we speak about domination is power relations. So the word itself is showing us that the idea of domination is inherent to the danger. The first times that this word appeared in French language, it was in love poetry in the 12th century. And these authors, they were actually talking about love. So one might wonder why, like what is this, why danger will appear in the context of love. And most of the times was actually to describe the influence of the lover, or when the lover enters the room and creates this powerful influence or affects you. Like maybe your heart turns upside down, you got a strong heartbeat. And this is when actually I want to introduce dance, because this is actually what really gave me like a big shot when I was researching this. What is the first similarity between danger and dance? They both have the same root, right? D-A-N. So in the case of dance, it's very interesting because it was not so clear at the beginning. When you go to a normal etymological dictionary, they say it's an unknown origin. But then when you start to go deeper into the old French, like how the language was actually being, the French that in that time was constituted as the conventional French, you see that dance was referring to the somatic state of trembling and having shivers, right? So, wow, like a dance, it was not an activity related to, like a culturally speaking, like having a dance or artistic. It was actually a somatic reaction, and this is the thesis of the book. It's a somatic reaction when the danger is too close. What does it mean? Like when the lover enters the room, your body dances. Maybe it's internally, maybe nobody notices, but you notice. The same might happen also with animals. Sometimes you see that after a big fight, animals actually need to shake the body to release tension or to channel. So we could think of dance as an embodiment of danger. That would be one of the statements of this research. How to look at dance as the embodiment of danger, as a somatic response, uncontrollable, something that you cannot control. It's not by goodwill as before, that the researcher had the goodwill of, let's encounter difference. In this case, difference visits you. So this gave me like a first hint to move on and understand dance as a form of embodiment that is not up to us to decide. So in which conditions I don't decide to dance and nevertheless I'm dancing? Who is sending me this invitation to dance? And the next chapter of the book is the devil, and I will explain why. The devil in this case is not the impersonation of Satan or Lucifer or anything that we might be used from movies or literature. I return to my dear Greek language, and that is where I found also something that fascinated me a lot, is when I look at the etymology of dance in Greek. The root is ballein, and this is the same root for words such as devil, problem, ballistics, bullets, symbol, and to name a few. I will show you later the other ones. For example, the word ballet comes from here. And this root in Greek means literally to throw in order to hit. All right, so a throw that turns into an attack or into an impact. I can relate when I think of problems. Literally, the prefix pro means forward, so I'm throwing forwards. A problem is something that has been thrown either in the middle of your way or you have thrown into the space. The devil, diabolos, means to throw transversally or to make a diagonal, to make a cut. The devil is what makes divisions, separations. It's not Satan or Lucifer or some kind of impersonation of evil. Devil literally means to cut, to separate. What puts things together after the devil separated? Is the symbol. So we already see here like a kind of dialectical relationship between the devil and the symbol. The devil divides, the symbol unifies. The devil breaks, the symbol repairs. The devil separates, the symbol reunifies. So in the case of ballistics, we all know that it's the science that studies the trajectories of projectiles. A bullet, another word coming from ballein, is the projectile that is being thrown in the space and marks also a trajectory. But why dance? I was still asking myself. I understand that problem, devil, ballistics, bullets, they belong together because since we are talking about hitting or harming, but then when you start to look back and see what was the understanding of dance in this 6th century before Christ in Greece, the dancers were highly athletic, and actually the bodies will be considered a projectile itself that you throw in the space against another body, and they collide, they impact against each other. So actually a dance, in this case, is not like in old French, that it was an uncontrollable somatic reaction to danger. In this case, dance can be something dangerous itself, because the body is a weapon, the body is a bullet. So as you can see, simply by having a little bit of curiosity on etymologies, you might arrive into very interesting considerations about dance, research, and so based on this horizon of meaning, I created a practice that will somehow propose forms of embodiment based on the first and second idea of dance. And this is what I want now to share with you. And then I will show also some videos of how this practice became a public showing. And then we can keep talking. I don't remember what is more on the list. So I asked the help of Dominic, and Milena, sorry. So basically, since it's a demonstration, I will talk through what I'm interested. I mean, the videos will actually speak more about it. I'm interested more in for you to understand what are different layers of the practice that now it will be impossible actually to bring all of them. And so I will return to the microphone from time to time. demonstration refers to how do I expose my body to the conditions of receiving a hit from a projectile. And basically, I was not activating yet any strategy. I just wanted to kind of be surprised by the, or to pretend that I was being surprised by the hit. So the beginning would be like I was here, static. Maybe I was giving a lecture. I was simply standing in the room, and unexpectedly, I received an invitation to move. I didn't want to move in that moment. I was not planning to dance. And actually, if I would plan to dance, I would not dance in that way. So what happened? Like something was actually forcing me to dance despite of my will. The fact that I was blindfolded also increases the level of uncertainty, because one thing is to get hit, another thing is to get hit when you don't know. So it increases the level of not knowing. And as you can see, the body is already very wise. The wisdom of the body is asking for protection, for shielding. So the front part of the body interprets that it's more fragile. So I close myself. I have a tendency to knees, hip joints, and shoulders. So I'm kind of compressing here. My back opens up. I tend to make myself smaller. And my arms and hands function also as an extra layer of shielding. So I'm not only closing my body, but I also want to protect my face, which maybe is a more delicate area of my body. And also, as you could observe, I start to move in circles, believing that maybe this will prevent my front side to be exposed. So this will be a first way of jumping into the practice. Now I'm going to activate one strategy, and I will tell you later about it. The difference was that in this case, I gave myself a task. The first one was not to say no to what happens to me, but actually, what can I say? How can I say yes? To turn the negativity of an attack into the affirmation, which will be to translate an attack into an invitation to dance. The consequence of this is that I take ownership of my dance. My dance is not anymore a reaction to an attack. I move because I want. And yes, I might have received first a stimulus to activate or to initiate. It wasn't my choice. I mean, in the case of the exercise, it is, because I put myself here, but as a metaphor of wider situations in life. Still, it was in my hands to try to turn things upside down. And since we are talking also about power relations, in which way I could also, through this taking ownership of my dance, empower myself, and through my embodiment, the dance that I'm doing is not anymore a response or, let's say, a submission to, in this case, an attack. Well, if you will take the workshop, I mean, not the one that we are doing this week, because this was just brought today for 20 minutes. But if you would participate in a workshop about this practice, we will spend enough time to see how everyone develops your own strategies. So it's not that I'm bringing already the way how to do it. And it's very interesting to see how the different bodies approach these conditions for dance to happen in different ways. So now I want to play some videos that you can see how this practice has been understood in different contexts. Thank you so much. And this last diagram was also bringing a little bit this understanding of research. On the left side is what we can consider the territory that we already know, this part of the self or a culture or any form of entity that you want to include there is what you already know. So thanks to exercising and experimenting, you move far from your center of comfort, you move far from your boundaries, and you might or not approach this notion of difference, or what is this otherness. I mean, this is not happening as if this would be a formula. No matter what a goodwill you might have of doing it, it might not happen. But there are also risks and dangers implied on this. And then the body is the first thing that learns from the encounter, from the difference, so the embodiment plays a big role. And then it's up to you as an artist, how do you want to articulate such an experience? How do you want to give form and shape, and to shape into some form of intelligible form? Not only for yourself to make sense out of what happened to you, but also to share it with others, which will be the last movement, implantation, or what we can call, how do you inject what you have learned into the collective body, for example. So I have here some videos. I'm going to shuffle them a little bit. As you can see at the beginning, wait, where is this? Yeah, at the beginning, the audience is invited to a space. They don't know what is going to happen. There is only like, how you say, an Anzeige. There is something that tells you that you are entering at your own risk. So people need to sign something. The dancers or the performers are in the middle of the room. There is a circle of 200 tennis balls, and the audience are listening how the performers explain that they want during 10 minutes to receive the tennis balls to be thrown at their bodies. They all have blindfolders, and there will be a cue after 10 minutes for the audience to stop throwing the balls. And now you can see what can happen at the end. This was in Mexico a year and a half ago. Actually, it's very interesting to see how the audience from one country interprets the task in a different way. I can say that in Germany, the audience were more gentle than in Sao Paulo or in Mexico. Now we have, for example, this is in Chile. Yeah, and as you can imagine, if you are an audience of such an event, the ball might hit you as well. So in this case, there was, I remember there were some injuries also. then we have here in Berlin. Children love it. It's silence, but it's a mess of, yeah, like a... Then I have also some footage from Sao Paulo here. Yeah, this exercise was like all against all. So there was no difference between who throws or who dances. Yeah, there are many variations of the exercise, so it trains your alertness in the space. Then, yeah, I also do it as a solo, so people, I'm there alone. And what happens when people stop throwing balls is that the embodiment, what we saw here, yeah. So there is a space for embodiment. If we can apply this graphic to the experience, everyone, not only including the dancers, but even the audience themselves, because think about it, to throw a projectile onto somebody is not an easy task. You don't feel good. It wakes up in you ethical, moral concerns. There are also different boundaries, not only the physical ones that they are being challenged here. So everyone is going into a journey of encountering difference. Like for some people is the physical pain. For some people might be traumas that this pain triggers in their bodies, etc. So the body, at some point, when the body claims the authorship of the dance and the people stop throwing the balls, the dancers keep dancing as a way of saying, I don't need you anymore. I don't need your throw anymore to dance. And what it happens is that we turn the situation upside down. So the lights are slowly being turned down, transitioning through this black light effect, where the tennis balls are being highlighted. And what it happens at some point is that the dancers themselves, they start to throw balls in the space randomly, which produces that the audience will start to allocate themselves on the corners of the room to try to protect themselves, and actually with the body of the other audience as a shield. So you observe all these different behaviors, and everyone at the end might feel very ashamed how they were behaving and so on. Some of them run away. There is also some kind of, at the end there is total darkness. And when you bring the lights again back, as I said, most of the people are like compressing themselves against the corner. So that was the example of this practice. I don't know what time is it. So I will finish in 2 minutes. I want to introduce also the book. It's also a dangerous book itself. I was thinking of how a book can be dangerous, so I was adding these metal layers, which some of them are sharper than others. And the shield of the book is the sandpaper. So when you include the book on your library, it damages the book next to it. I want to finish mentioning my current research. In the case of the tennis balls, it has a personal story. I went to this school where we were hundreds of kids playing together in the same field, in the same courtyard. So I was this kid that got my glasses very early. So I needed this object in my face to play football. And like once a month, I would come back home with my glasses broken because there would be maybe 15 different footballs in the same field. So you are not playing only one match, you are playing simultaneous matches. And yeah, I will get this sometimes like my face gets damaged because the glasses will make a cut in my face and so on. So I believe that was the beginning for me of this alertness that I carry in my body about something might hit you at any time. And in the case of the work that I'm doing now in collaboration, is the practice of voluntary insomnia. So in my case, I was afraid of the night already for many years. And for me to move here towards the right side, it was actually to explore the night. And I mean, I don't mean clubbing or anything like this, which is not the particular case of this. Is to explore the night in the sense of, what happens when you cannot sleep and you're in your room. So the same as the balls, when you get a projectile in your body, the first reaction is no. So my first reaction was, I want to sleep. When you realize that the balls keep being thrown at you, and there is another night and another night that you cannot sleep, then I ask myself, how can I say yes to the insomnia? And so once again, all of a sudden, a huge portal opens, and you realize that the night is also the space and time for research to happen. So I started to create different rituals at night to make in your room, or different exercises that you can do with your shadows. And well, this book will be soon published. So I just wanted to bring this example also that now I think I'm more interested in what the symbol can do, the power of the symbol to repair or to put things together. This research I started in 2013, so it's also a different period of my life. I think I have spent enough time with the devil, and now I'm gonna hang out with the symbol more often. Thank you for your attention. Now it's time also for you either to ask or anything else. And we have promised to finish at 8, or before 8, latest at 8.
Thank you very much. I find it really inspiring. Also, your biography, which I didn't get to in the introduction, but that you've come from philosophy and quite late to dance, or dance found you, as you told me. And I'm interested at these publications. You've founded this publishing house, Circadian Press, and as I understand it, these books, they're not just they don't exist just as themselves as books. They're always projected into the world as part of an event. Could you tell us a bit about that?
Sure. So me and my friend Dimitri, we started Circadian 4 or 5 years ago because we both were interested in self-publishing, and we thought, how can we create a platform for books to support each other? So since we had already 2 books, each of us written, so we printed these books, and each time that we will sell our books, the money will go for somebody else's book to be printed. So this is a chain reaction that luckily it works. We have published already 20 books. They are all practice-based, so the condition to publish with us is that the book should contain practices, methodologies, exercises, experiments, any form of action-oriented content. And this is why the event is a very important part of our publishing house, because the books must be embodied or must be brought into action. So we accompany the books always with events, with workshops, with different formats of bringing the book into life and not simply reading it. So yeah, that was the idea of having events. Yeah.
So over to you. have you any particular questions? Too many tennis balls thrown at you during the day.
Hello? Ooh. Okay. Maybe because also seeing the example you proposed, I just had different associations because I don't remember how you called it, a strategy to sort of respond to the throwing of the balls. And in my mind, I had like different associations of what you could possibly do in that moment, and the way you went was sort of I sort of got this catchphrase in my head, like you never hit a moving target. So instead of like, you know, like trying to harden the body, you actually start moving, and in that sense, like any action is better than no action. So you also manage to like escape some that don't even hit you, and others you're sort of, because you're also dynamic in that moment, it's sort of the impact isn't as big as if you would harden the body. But then I also had to think of like car accidents, for example, where sometimes it is said that people get the least injuries when they actually completely like relax their bodies. So like all the tension goes out completely. I mean, then you're not really responsive anymore. But also as a sort of other way that you could do, instead of like hardening, to just like completely sort of surrender to the thread for the duration if you really can't do anything about it in that specific moment. Yeah, that's not really a question, but just some
completely
thoughts.
Indeed, this is so the warm-up is also very important before you jump into the practice. I haven't done it, and so relaxation is a key thing to go through this. In my case, I mean, everyone has different ways of achieving relaxation or somatic relaxation. I use Qigong. It's a practice that I do for many years. So when I'm doing the practice, I do some, I prepare my body before I go to enter the Qigong body, and I try to keep this as a kind of a center of the practice. Each time that I'm moving, to try to be soft, not to be tense. The moving faster is definitely a good strategy, but in time it's not so sustainable, because imagine to be very fast for very long, at some point you get tired. So you also need to think of sustainability of your strategies. And relaxation is great, because also you feel less pain, as you said. And so totally you found already the key entrance in order to have a different experience of it, definitely.
Can I?
I think I can do without a microphone. Is that okay? No? In one of the graphics in the beginning, where you had art and theory, and then in a core order in the, like, madness is not dialoguing with anyone. What's up with that?
Yeah. Yeah, I have no words. I mean, there is this three elements always dancing together. Madness, art, and the child at play. No, like they are kind of three things that like to be in the boundary, or that they don't understand. Convention. Yeah.
Can I go a little bit further? No, because I mean, like, sometimes, like, what is perceived as madness, and like it's pushed out of society also, because there is mental institutions, and you know, and it looks like that, like there's a mental institution. To me, I perceived it like this, and that it didn't dialogue with order. So I wondered, you know, if there is possible connections.
Yeah,
maybe.
of course. I mean, doing this graphic, I didn't intend to communicate that there is no communication. It was more like a way of locating that in the boundary madness might find itself. I was more talking about theory and art, but it should have, of course, the two arrows as well. And actually, for my understanding, they kind of belong together in a way. I mean, the difference between an artist and a mad person is that the artist has the tools of art, and maybe the mad person doesn't.
Thank you, first of all, for wonderful lecture and presentation, indeed, full of inspiration. And one of the inspirations I got is following what was asked about this graph. Why do you place art and theory, let's say, on the boundaries and politics in the center, order, and so on? Why do you look at art and theory and something, let's say, monolithic? Yeah. I would maybe suggest that both art and theory can be part of order, contributing, co-creating, stabilizing order, as well as politics can become so radical that is actually expanding the boundary. So if you can comment a little bit of this.
I mean, now I realize that I shouldn't have brought this graphic at all. Because, yeah, I mean, the graphics I usually work with are these ones and these ones. So they are actually about movement and dynamics. So where you see here art as a monolithic thing, actually what I mean is this, no? So it's how do you move from the order, which in this case will be the left side, towards the right side, and then you come back. So it's a constant osmosis or form of metabolism that you need to go back and forth in loop. Sometimes you get closer, farther, etc. So the other graphic is misleading. I will not bring it again. This is more what I mean. It's a cycle. It's a constant. This is what allows communication, what allows exchange, what allows access or permeability. So my whole statement about shielding is that, yeah, I mean, protection is not enough. We also need to maintain an exchange with the outside or what is on the other side of the shield. So membranes, access, windows, doors, gates, permeability, porosity, to make holes in the umbrella and to drink the rain water. So a little bit also like in that sense, what is the movement back and forth? This is how I understand research, theory, and art as this thing that manages to reach the order, because we also need it sometimes in the order to create a center, but also is this thing that is so elastic and resilient that can really reach very far, and then like a boomerang return. So you trust that the return is possible. Madness, the way I see it, is that when you didn't manage to return, you went at least for a while, maybe temporarily madness or permanent madness, but you didn't manage to return. This is how I see it. So returning is very important to the order. We all need also to return to some kind of place where we can. Yeah, this is why the devil and the symbol are always working together. The devil is what creates all this uncertainty and danger, risk, but we cannot live all the time in that state of uncertainty. We sometimes need to make sense. We need to make meaning. We need to restructure, reshape, restore, repair. So it's a constant back and forth movement, the way I see the artistic way of living.
I was, yes. No, I just, I was interested in those aerial views of such big bodies of people immediately starting to cook, like thinking of scientific models when the bulls are making all these figures the water cook or so. But I was reminded of your earlier video works or photographic works where you were often concerned with a large tableau, a landscape, an industrial landscape, where you multiply so many bodies in action. And there was a relation to that then with these events, the ball events.
Because of the multitude of bodies, yeah. True.
Diego, thank you. I wanted to ask you mainly in regard to the work that we've seen with the tennis balls. How do you see, because I think we've all become aware in the past years, especially in theaters, of, in a way, trigger warning the audience, terms like safe space becoming really important. How do you see this need of taking risk, taking a dangerous situation into an arts practice, and at the same time, the need or the aim to, in a way, protect, for example, an audience before they enter a theater? How do you find a balance, or maybe a way that they don't contradict each other, but they do come together, or not?
Yeah, I wish I would know the answer. It's a very good question, very contemporary problem. And I think it's important enough to actually to be something that we can start with and not to finish with, because anything that I would say now, it would be too short to actually engage in a big discussion, and I think it deserves. I made my statement very clear. I'm pro-risk. This doesn't mean that everyone has to do it in this way. Not all the theaters have these policies or this way of preserving the safe space. I think it's good that not all the theaters preserve the safe space. And I think that it should be, the heterogeneity is important, no? Like people like to risk or to go through dangers, that there are places where it can happen. The problem will be that every single venue, every single theater become like this. This is, I will find a problem. I think that if you as an audience, you like this theater because they guarantee you your safety, it's definitely your choice. Then we can then later talk about what are the consequences and what kind of art is that art. Yeah, where do you situate this art? Is this art that situates itself in the close to the order, conventions, comfort zone, or is an art that actually is moving towards the unknown, towards the things that the society has not assimilated yet, and sometimes it takes years to assimilate. But as we have seen in history, there are movements that things sometimes get more, more conservative, and then there is a period of time that it gets more like an opening, and then conservative again. So maybe we are in conservative times.
Thank you, Diogo. 2 months ago, me and my peers of Soda, we just got in this studio. It was full of tennis balls. And we did actually an amazing improvisation with them. Were the balls yours? I'm just curious, and this is not my question, it's warming up.
2 years ago?
2 months ago.
No.
No, oh, okay.
My balls were in the Keller already for a year and a half.
Okay, so curious that this studio was full of tennis balls too. We have to find out why. I have a practical question about coming back again to the ballein exercise, the heating. There is, if I can ask about the scale of importance on the workshop, in this sense, that is, if I imagine when a person starts the practice for the first time, there's a moment, this is the moment where I believe that, as I understood, the devils come, or this exercise of how the body reacts in the first place, and how it gets used to it. So I believe there's a big change between the first days of the workshop and the last days of the workshop, and potentially a second or a third workshop. And my question is, in a scale of importance, if there's a moment that this workshop works as a first step for something else, and then there's no more heating, and the movement or the invitation to a dance then unfolds in other means, and if it's more important the beginning of the workshop where the body is dealing with the first impacts.
Yeah, thank you. Well, usually, I mean, it depends because it's something that already for several years, so not in all the workshops I do the same, but what I like to do, what I prefer to do, is that I bring this as an example, and then I ask the participants of the workshop, through me facilitating the process, how do they actually create their own practice of dancing the problem, bringing their own problems, bringing their own boundaries, notions of danger, risk, etc. So this I bring it more like as a model that accompanies the theory or somehow, or the part of the workshop that is more about me displaying all these concepts. So as an example of embodiment and so on. And then what is in my interest is actually to see how the different participants create their own practice. And this is what we are doing this week, for example. And maybe on Thursday we have the occasion to test it together, if that's the case. But it's true, like for me now, the priority is more to that the participant develops their own practice of dealing with the devil, with the symbol, with the problem, and actually to ask themselves, what is the role of the problem in my artistic practice? What is the role of the devil in my art research? And again, I'm speaking metaphorically. Everyone defines the devil in their own terms, or defines problems in their own terms. So, or how much do you risk as an artist? What is the role that risk plays in your work? So all these questions, I think that is what I try to bring more. Not that they do what I do.
Thank you, first. And secondly, my question is, have you tried other things than tennis ball? And did it start with the tennis ball from the beginning? And what is maybe the role of the tennis ball also as a symbol? I mean, speaking of symbols, and yeah, would be interested in that.
Well, the tennis balls, they were the closest to this biographical experience that I told about me in my school with footballs. So they were very handy and easy to find, and they are an object that they can hurt you, but not really, because they are still light. And so yes, like there were workshops that people reformulated the exercise, replacing the tennis balls for other types of projectiles. Indeed, they did. Some people have actually made pieces out of this practice, like in Sao Paulo, for example, there was two people who developed a duet that they were, objects were being thrown upwards and would fall into them as well, different objects. Other people were working with water balloons on the street in a more friendly context. This is what I can remember now. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you, Diego. I don't know if it's a question, but maybe it may be more like the comment. Well, I'm kind of curious how you might react about this, like, comment. Like through this, like, tennis ball practice, somehow I was thinking, or like it reminds me a lot about like the shift of the reality and representation of body in the war, like a battlefield. because in like I'm kind of researching about at the moment in beginning of 19th century, it's like all like armies are really kind of like keep standing somehow by the condition of the weapon what they used, like this kind of old styled gun, like they kind of have to keep standing like to store the bullet inside and like shoot, and so they keep standing on the war field and also showing themselves as kind of tall as possible, like wearing those hats and like riding on the horse is very important because like they are still seeing each other, like but in like from the beginning of the 20th centuries, like somehow they are not seeing each other anymore, so they don't know who kills whom and like people killed by whom or like those kind of things. And then this reality end is immediately changed from like standing to crawling and also like sort of hiding their body, otherwise they die basically. So there's no joke about it. And somehow I was thinking about like this kind of back and forth inside the confrontation, like try to be like standing, sort of showing, relaxing in front of people, and also like hiding, growing like body to protect. So this tennis ball is like for me very interesting, like sort of in between like medium or material to like make the people be keeping this kind of confrontation, inside confrontation, like somehow, it's okay, but not okay, or it's okay, it's not okay, or like this kind of thing. So, so, I mean, I don't know about the question so much, that kind of comment. But like, would you kind of have any sort of, imagination of like the bodily representation about like if this the body in the middle with tennis ball is like fighting or like protecting or like that kind of imagination to body if you have or not.
I don't know what to say. I mean, definitely very interesting. For example, I also do this other practice of it's a form of Tai Chi that you do with a partner. So it's a competition, and you need to touch each other. It's like when two bodies, it's like a wrestling in a way with fixed steps. And the big difference is when the weapon is not your body but something else that you can throw through the distance. So the distance is not anymore an impossibility; it's a possibility. When the only weapon is your body, you need to the distance doesn't play a role because you are here and the other person might be there. So I think that definitely there is a huge difference when is your body what is your only tool, or when you rely on something else to reach another body. It's the same with communication. Like if we want to talk to each other before, when there were no telephones, or we can still maybe write a letter or send somebody with some writings. Maybe even before writing existed, the only chance is that you have the body in front of you to talk. No, so I guess that you can apply the same for communication, not only for conflict, but how two bodies are in relation to each other. That now this whole idea of physical distance it exploded. Like now, distance doesn't play any role. We are very close and very far at the same time. We can reach each other and not reach each other at the same time. So I guess that we are in this kind of paradox constantly. And what time is it? Okay.
Is there a last question? Yeah.
Hi, Diego. Toward the beginning, you made a distinction between, I think you called it goodwill research, and when the devil comes knocking on your door research.
Yes.
Which I find helpful for me somehow, because when I reflect on the art I've made, it feels somehow that when the devil has come to knock on my door, I've felt better about those projects. And I'm wondering if you could elaborate maybe on that feeling, if you share that, or
there is a chapter on the book dedicated to that.
Yeah.
You can later get one if you want. Yes, there is this notion of exactly when what triggers either the movement or the thinking, no? Like in the case of when we think of in general, no? And I also believe, like you, that most of the things that happen to me that have triggered me are things that I didn't choose, and they were unexpected. In a way of fortuitous way, they became necessary. So they were not necessary, and from one second to another one, they become super necessary. This is a kind of a magic effect, because like it's like how all of a sudden I find myself obsessed and busy with this topic that before it didn't really exist in my life. So yeah, like what is the sometimes the difficulty is that maybe the devil doesn't knock at your door and you spend 1 year or 2 years like in a crisis of, okay, what do I do? What am I busy with? What is my topic? Or maybe we can think of how to be open to this unexpected, maybe the devil was knocking at your door and you didn't even notice. So it's like, how can you make yourself available, no, to the unexpected call, which maybe is something that we can train, no, this to be in this constant state. But then there is also, probably you have gone through it as well, this state that you are receiving all the time visits, and it's like too much, like, oh, I'm interested in this, and now this thing happened to me as well. So also the excess of things might be also a problem in itself. So yeah, as usual, the middle point is more sustainable. Yeah, but also the other one is very exciting, no? That you connect everything together, all the pieces make sense. Good. So if that was the last question, thank you everyone. I hope we had a nice time. It was a long day for everyone as well, and this is just the beginning of the week. So I want to say thank you to all of you for making this week possible. And yeah, let's see what unexpected things happen this week.
Thank you very much, Diego.